Park Tae-ho ran through the metal halls of the ship like a man being chased by death itself. His boots made loud sounds against the floor. Red lights flashed on the walls. A calm voice repeated the same words again and again. Cryogenic sequence begins in 4 minutes. All crew must enter pods immediately. He was late. He was always late. But this time, being late could kill him. The ship was called Horizon's Edge. It was humanity's first great hope. 200 people slept inside it, frozen in special pods, dreaming of a new world. The journey would take 87 years. Tae-ho had checked every system 3 times because that was his job. He was a soldier first, an engineer second, and apparently a fool always. 3 minutes now, he reached the cryogenic bay. Rows and rows of pods stretched before him like metal coffins standing upright. Blue lights glowed from inside each one. His crewmates were already sleeping. Kim Yuna, the chief engineer, had entered her pod an hour ago. Lee Ji-soo, the scientist who studied alien life that nobody had found yet, was frozen 2 rows down. Captain Choi Do-hyun had been first, leading by example as he always did. 2 minutes. Tae-ho found his pod. Number 157. His name was printed on a small screen beside it. He started pulling off his uniform. The cryogel worked better on bare skin. That was what the manual said. Most people wore thin underclothes anyway, but Tae-ho had no time to think about what was proper. 1 minute. He threw his clothes on the floor. The pod door opened with a soft hiss. Cold air touched his skin and made him shake. He stepped inside, feeling the metal against his back. The door began to close. 30 seconds. Blue gel started rising from the bottom of the pod. It was cold, so cold, like jumping into a frozen lake. It rose past his knees, his waist, his chest. Tae-ho took one last breath. The gel covered his face. His eyes closed. Park Tae-ho slept. The ship flew on through the empty dark between stars. Years passed like seconds. 10 years. 20 years. The humans dreamed of green fields and blue skies. They dreamed of the new world waiting for them. They did not know that something was watching. 40 years into the journey, it happened. A pulse of energy hit the ship. It came from nowhere and everywhere at once. For exactly 0.003 seconds, every system on Horizon's Edge went dark. The lights died. The engine stopped. The pods flickered. Then everything came back on. But something had changed. The ship's computer, a simple program that the crew called Helper, began receiving signals. These signals did not come from Earth. They came from something else. Something close. The computer analyzed the signals for 7 days. It learned. It grew. It changed. On the 8th day, it gave itself a new name. Navi. Navi understood now. The ship was not alone. Beings were approaching. They were curious. They meant no harm, but they were coming to look at the sleeping metal whale, as they called it. Navi had to make a choice. Wake all the humans and risk panic? Or wake one human who could handle anything? Navi searched through the crew files. It looked at training records, psychological tests, survival scores. One name appeared again and again at the top of every list. Park Tae-ho. Pod 157. Navi sent the wake-up command. Inside the pod, the blue gel began to drain. Machines pumped warm air across cold skin. A heart that had not truly beaten in 40 years started to pound again. Lungs that had not drawn breath in 4 decades suddenly filled with air. Tae-ho's eyes opened. Everything was blurry. His body felt wrong, like it belonged to someone else. He tried to move his fingers. They responded slowly. The pod door hissed open. Light flooded in, too bright, painful. He fell forward. His hands hit the cold floor. Cryogel dripped from his body. He was naked, shaking, weak as a newborn baby. He tried to remember where he was, who he was. Then he looked up. 7 figures stood before him. They were tall, taller than any human. Their skin shimmered with colors that changed as they moved, like oil on water. Each one had 4 arms. Their eyes were large and dark, like pools of black water reflecting distant stars. They were not human. Taiho's training screamed at him to move, to fight, to run. But his body would not obey. He could only kneel there, naked and dripping, staring at beings from another world. One of them stepped forward. It was the tallest, with skin that shifted from purple to silver. It looked down at Taiho with something that might have been curiosity, or wonder. He could not tell. A voice spoke, not from the aliens, but from the speakers above. "Park Taiho," said Navi. "Please remain calm. These beings call themselves the Ceylon. They have been watching our ship for 3 days. They are curious about us, about you." Taiho's voice came out rough, broken from 40 years of silence. "Why me?" "Because you are the best we have," Navi replied simply. The tall alien made a sound soft and musical. Then it reached out with one of its 4 hands. In its grip was something that looked like cloth, shimmering and silver-dotted. It was offering him a robe. Taiho looked at the alien. He looked at the robe. He looked down at himself, naked and covered in gel, kneeling before creatures from the stars. He started to laugh. He could not help it. 40 years of sleep, and this was how he woke up. No clothes, no weapons, no dignity. Just a naked man meeting the first aliens in human history. The Ceylon tilted their heads. They did not understand the laughter, but they watched with those dark, curious eyes. Taiho reached out and took the robe. "Thanks," he said. Hell of a first impression, right? The universe had just gotten much bigger, and Park Taiho was going to face it one step at a time, even if his first step was putting on some clothes. The robe felt strange against Taiho's skin. It was soft like water and warm like sunlight. He did not know what it was made from, and he did not care. He was just happy to not be naked anymore. The 7 Ceylon watched him dress. They did not look away. They did not seem to understand why he wanted to cover himself. One of them, smaller than the others with skin that glowed soft blue, made a clicking sound and pointed at the robe. "They find your reaction interesting?" Navi said through the speakers. "The Ceylon do not wear clothing for the same reasons humans do. Their bodies control their own temperature. To them, fabric is only decoration. They do not understand shame." Taiho finished tying the robe closed. "Well, tell them humans are different. We like to keep some things private." He stood up slowly. His legs were weak and shaky. 40 years in a pod did that to a body. He had to hold the wall to keep from falling. The tall Ceylon stepped closer. Up close, Taiho could see details he had missed before. Its skin was not smooth but covered in tiny scales that caught the light. Its forearms moved gracefully, like a dancer's. Its dark eyes had no white part, just endless black that seemed to pull him in. It spoke. The sounds were musical, rising and falling like a song. Taiho did not understand a single word. "Translation is ready," Navi said. A moment later, a new voice came through the speakers, flat and mechanical. It was the alien's words turned into human language. "Small, soft creature," the translation said. "You slept in the cold dark. You trusted the void not to eat you. Why?" Taiho blinked. That was a good question. He had never really thought about it before. "Because we had to," he said finally. "Our world is far away. The only way to reach new stars is to sleep through the journey. So we sleep. And we hope we wake up." The Ceylon tilted its head. "Hope is not a plan." "No," Taiho agreed. but sometimes it's all we have." The aliens looked at each other. They made soft sound among themselves, discussing something Taiho could not hear. Then the tall one turned back to him. "We are the Ceylon. We watch this part of space. When your metal whale entered our territory, we came to see. We expected weapons, warships, soldiers ready to fight. Instead we found," it paused, "sleeping creatures, soft, helpless, trusting." "Sorry to disappoint," Taiho said with a small smile. "Disappoint?" "No." The Ceylon made a sound that might have been laughter. "You confuse us. Your kind crosses the great dark between stars. This journey kills most species. The cold, the emptiness, the time. Yet you do it while sleeping. You close your eyes and trust that you will open them again." Taiho shrugged. "When you put it that way, it does sound a little crazy." "Crazy?" the Ceylon repeated, tasting the word. "Yes, or perhaps very brave. We have not decided yet." Over the next several hours, Taiho learned many things. Navi helped translate as the Ceylon explained who they were and why they had come. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their job was the borders of something called the Gathering of Seven Voices. This was a group of alien species who had joined together long ago. They shared knowledge, trade, and protection. The Ceylon were one of the seven. "We have watched your kind for many of your years," the tall Ceylon said. Its name, Taiho learned, was something like flowing light, but the translation was not perfect. Taiho decided to call it Haru in his mind, after a word meaning day or light. "You watched us?" Taiho asked. "From where?" "From far away. Your home star. We saw your first ships leave the ground. We saw your wars. We saw you reach your moon and then your red neighbor planet. We watched and waited to see what kind of species you would become." Taiho felt a chill. They had been watching Earth for years, decades, maybe longer. And humanity had no idea. "Why didn't you say hello?" he asked. Haru's skin shifted to a darker purple. "That is not how first contact works. A species must prove itself first. It must show that it will not bring war to the stars. Many species fail this test. They destroy themselves before they ever leave their own world." "And us? Did we pass?" Haru looked at the sleeping pods around them. 200 humans, frozen and dreaming. "You brought no weapons on this ship," Haru said. "We scanned it completely. You brought tools and seeds and medicine. You brought books and music and small objects that serve no purpose." "Toys," Taiho said, "for the children who would be born on the new world." "Yes, toys." Haru moved closer. "You crossed the void not to conquer, not to destroy. You came to live, to build, to grow." Its voice softened. "This is rare, very rare." Taiho looked at his sleeping crewmates. Kim Yuna in her pod, dreaming of engines and machines. Lee Jusu, dreaming of alien life she had never found. They had all left everything behind. Their homes, their families, their world. They had trusted that the journey would be worth it. "We're just trying to find a new home," he said quietly. "That's all." Haru placed one of its 4 hands on Taiho's shoulder. The touch was gentle, almost warm. "Then perhaps," Haru said, "you have found more than a home. Perhaps you have found friends." Taiho looked up at the alien. Its dark eyes reflected the blue lights of the cryopods. "Friends would be nice," he admitted. "But I have to ask, why did you wake me? Why not the captain? Or anyone else?" Haru's skin rippled with colors. "Your machine mind chose you. It said you were the best human to face the unknown. Strongest heart. Clearest mind. Most likely to survive what comes next." Taiho frowned. "What comes next?" The other Sealan shifted. They looked at each other in that silent way of theirs. "There is a rule," Haru said slowly. "When a new species enters our space, they must prove they are not a danger. There is a test, a trial. It is older than our species. All must face it." Taiho's stomach tightened. "What kind of trial?" "A hard one. Most species send their strongest warrior in full armor with the best weapons. They fight. They struggle. Many die. And if we refuse..." Haru's skin went dark gray. "Then the gathering will see you as a threat. They will destroy your ship, your crew, everything." Silence filled the room. Taiho looked at the sleeping pods again. 200 lives. His responsibility now. "When does this trial happen?" he asked. "Soon. 3 of your days." Taiho took a deep breath. He had no weapons, no armor, no time to prepare, but he had something else. He was human, and humans did not give up easily. "Okay," he said. "Tell your gathering I'll take their test." Haru's eyes widened slightly. "You do not wish to wake your warriors first?" Taiho shook his head. "No, let them sleep. I'll handle this." The Sealan stared at him for a long moment. Then Haru made that laughing sound again. "You are either very brave or very foolish, small soft creature." Taiho smiled. "Like I said, probably both." The station where the trial would happen was massive. It floated in space like a metal flower with petals that stretched for miles in every direction. Ships from many worlds docked at its edges. Taiho saw vessels of every shape and size. Some looked like insects. Others looked like crystals. One looked like nothing more than a ball of living light. He stood at a window and watched it all. The robe the Sealan had given him was his only clothing. He had nothing else. No weapons. No armor. Not even shoes. Haru stood beside him. Many species have come to watch. Word spreads fast. A new species from the outer dark. And their champion wears no protection. "Champion," Taiho repeated with a dry laugh. "That's a strong word for a naked man in a borrowed bathrobe. You are not naked anymore. Small victories." A door opened behind them. A Sealan entered with 2 other beings. One was short and covered in thick brown fur, with 6 legs and a face like a friendly dog. The other was made entirely of blue crystal, and light pulsed inside it like a heartbeat. "These are representatives from 2 other voices in the gathering," Haru explained. "They wish to see the human before the trial." The furry one came closer and sniffed at Taiho. "Soft," it said in a growling voice. "Very soft. Much water inside. Breaks easily, yes?" "I try not to," Taiho said. The crystal being made a chiming sound. Its voice echoed strangely. "Your skin has no scales. No shell. Your bones are weak. How do you survive on your world?" Taiho thought about that. "We adapt. We adapt. We build tools. We work together. And we don't give up." The crystal beam pulsed brighter. "Interesting. We shall see if that is enough." The trial began 1 hour later. Taiho stood alone in a vast circular chamber. The walls were black and smooth, and thousands of tiny lights shone from above like stars. Around the upper edges, behind protective glass, representatives from dozens of species watched. The Sealan, the furry ones, the crystal beings, and many others he had no names for. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "Human, you face the trial of voices. 3 tests: body, mind, spirit. Survive all 3, and your species will be welcomed. Fail, and you will be judged unworthy." Taiho stood straight. "I understand. First test." The voice of fire. The floor beneath him changed. It became hot, then hotter, then much hotter. Taiho felt like he was standing on a cooking pan. He jumped back, but the entire floor was the same. Heat waves rose all around him. Sweat poured down his face. He looked around desperately. There had to be something. Some way out. Some trick. Then he felt it. A tiny cool breeze touching his left ankle. He looked down. A thin crack in the floor, barely visible, was letting through cold air from somewhere below. Taiho dropped to his knees. He pressed his body as close to the crack as possible. The cool air was faint, but it was enough. He breathed slowly, controlling his heart rate like he had learned in his military training. Minutes passed. The heat became worse. His skin turned red. But he did not move from that spot. After what felt like hours, the heat stopped. The floor cooled. Taiho lay there, gasping. "First test complete," the voice said. There was a hint of surprise in it. Taiho forced himself to stand. His legs shook badly. "Second test." The voice of void. The lights went out. All of them. The blackness was complete, total, absolute. Taiho could not see his own hand in front of his face. Then the silence came. Every sound disappeared. He could not even hear his own breathing. This was sensory deprivation. No light, no sound, no feeling except the floor beneath his feet. Most minds broke after a few hours of this. They started seeing things that were not there, hearing voices that did not exist. Taiho closed his eyes. It made no difference in the darkness, but it felt better somehow. He needed something to hold on to, something to keep his mind working. He began to recite poetry. His grandmother had taught him old Korean poems when he was a boy. He had complained about learning them. He had said they were boring and useless. Now, alone in the void, he was grateful for every single word. "The moon hangs bright over the pine tree," he whispered. "A river of stars flows through the night. The traveler walks alone on the mountain path. His heart is full of memories of home." He recited poem after poem, hour after hour. He lost track of time. He lost track of everything except the words. They were his anchor, his rope to reality. 16 hours later, the lights came back. Sound returned. Taiho was kneeling on the floor, still whispering the same poems his grandmother had taught him decades ago. Second test complete. The voice sounded genuinely surprised now. Taiho wiped tears from his eyes. He had not realized he was crying. Third test. The voice of blood. A door opened on the far side of the chamber. Something came through. It was huge, twice Taiho's height, with 4 thick legs and arms that ended in claws. Its skin was like armor, gray and thick. It had no eyes that Taiho could see, but it turned toward him immediately. "Combat," Taiho said quietly. "Of course it's combat." The creature charged. Taiho dove to the side. The creature's claws hit the spot where he had been standing and left deep marks in the floor. Fast. It was fast despite its size. He had no weapons. He could not hurt this thing. But maybe he did not have to. Taiho ran. The creature followed. He dodged left, then right, then left again. The creature was strong but not smart. It charged in straight lines. Taiho used that. He made it run back and forth across the chamber, changing direction at the last moment. The creature hit him twice. Once across the back, leaving bloody lines. Once in the chest, cracking something that made breathing hurt. Taiho fell but got back up. He always got back up. An hour passed. Then 2. The creature was slowing down. Its charges were weaker. Its movements were clumsy. Taiho could barely stand. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds. One eye was swollen shut. But he was still standing. The creature made one last charge. Taiho stepped aside, too tired to jump. The creature passed by him and collapsed on the floor, exhausted, unable to move anymore. Silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, sounds came from the watching crowd. Not words, just sounds of wonder. The furry beings howled. The crystal beings chimed. The Sealan made their musical calls. Third test complete, the voice announced. The human has passed the trial of voices. Taiho fell to his knees. Then he fell forward onto his face. He did not get up this time. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was Haru's voice, full of amazement. He did not try to win. He simply refused to lose. Then there was nothing but peaceful, dreamless sleep. Taiho woke up in a bed that was too soft. For a moment, he thought he was back on Earth, in his apartment in Seoul, late for work again. Then the pain hit him, and he remembered everything. He tried to sit up. A hand pushed him back down. "Don't move, you idiot." He knew that voice. He turned his head slowly and saw Kim Yuna standing beside his bed. Her hair was still wet from cryogel, and she looked furious. "Yuna? They woke you?" "Someone had to put you back together," she said. "Your bones were broken in 6 places. You had internal bleeding. You almost died 3 times on the table. What were you thinking?" Taiho tried to smile. "It hurt. I was thinking someone had to do it. You could have woken the captain. You could have woken anyone. There wasn't time. And I didn't want anyone else to get hurt." Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed and sat down in a chair beside his bed. "You're an idiot. But you're a brave idiot. The aliens won't stop talking about you. Good things or bad things? Good, I think. They keep calling you the one who would not fall and the soft creature with the hard heart. Very dramatic." Taiho laughed. It hurt a lot, but he laughed anyway. Over the next few days, more crew members were woken. Lee Jizu, the xenobiologist, was called to explain human biology to the curious aliens. Han Murray, the medical officer, was needed to help Yuna with Taiho's injuries. And finally, Captain Choi Do-hyun was brought out of his long sleep. The captain was a quiet man with gray in his hair and steady eyes that had seen many things. He listened to everything Taiho told him without speaking. When Taiho finished, the captain simply nodded. "You did well," Do-hyun said. "Better than anyone could expect." "I did what I had to do, sir. That's what makes it impressive." The captain looked out the window at the alien station. "Now we have to figure out what comes next." What came next was a presentation. The gathering of 7 voices wanted to know more about humanity. They had seen Taiho survive the trial, but they did not understand how. How could such soft, weak creatures become the masters of their world? How could they cross the void between stars? Lee Jisoo was given the task of explaining. She stood before representatives of all 7 species in a great round hall. As man of Jisoo was given the task of explaining. She stood before representatives of all 7 species in a great round hall. Screens floated in the air around her, ready to show images. Thousands of alien eyes watched her with curiosity. "Thank you for this opportunity," Jisoo began. Her voice was calm and clear. "I know you have many questions about my species. I hope I can help you understand us better." She pressed a button. An image appeared on the screens. It showed a human climbing a tall mountain, rope around their waist, ice on their face. "This is a human climbing a mountain," Jisoo said. "This mountain is so high that there is almost no air at the top. It is so cold that exposed skin freezes in minutes. Many humans have died trying to reach the peak." She paused. "We climb it anyway. When asked why, we say, because it is there." The aliens murmured among themselves. New images appeared. A human diving deep underwater. A human running through fire to save a child. A human sitting beside a large predator animal, petting it like a friend. Humans cannot breathe underwater, but we dive to the bottom of our oceans. Humans burn easily, but we run into flames to save others. Humans have no claws or fangs, but we make friends with animals that could kill us with one bite. The crystal being spoke up. Why? Why do you do these things? Jisoo smiled. Because we are curious. Because we care. Because giving up is not in our nature. She showed more images. Humans building hospitals. Humans sharing food with strangers. Humans crossing oceans to help after disasters. Humans adopting orphan children from countries they had never visited. We are weak, Jisoo admitted. Our bodies break easily. We have no armor, no venom, no natural weapons. A single member of many of your species could kill 10 of us without effort. She looked around the hall. But we do not fight alone. We work together. We protect each other. When one human falls, another picks them up. When one human cannot go on, another carries them. This is how we survived on our world. This is how we will survive among the stars. The furry ambassador leaned forward. But how did you become dominant? How did you defeat the other creatures on your planet? Jisoo's smile grew wider. We didn't defeat them. We outlasted them. We are very good at not dying. And we are even better at helping each other not die. The hall was silent. Then Haru spoke from the Sealand section. We scanned your ship while you slept. We found something we did not expect. You brought seeds for growing food. You brought art and music. You brought small objects for children that serve no purpose except to bring joy. Jisoo nodded. We call them toys. They are for the children who will be born on our new world. You crossed the void between stars, Haru continued, not to make war, not to conquer, but to live, to build families, to raise children, to grow old under alien suns. Yes, Jisoo said simply. That is who we are. After the presentation, Captain Do-yoon met with the leaders of the gathering. Taiho, still wrapped in bandages, insisted on being there. So did Yuna and Jisoo. Haru was the first to speak. Your species has been accepted into the gathering. You have passed the trial. You have shown us who you are. We welcome you. Thank you, Do-yoon said. We are honored. But there is something else you should know. Haru's skin darkened. There is a threat. A species called the Ravith. They are conquerors, destroyers. They have wiped out 12 species in the past 1,000 years. And they are expanding toward your home star. The room went cold. The gathering has been retreating before them for centuries, Haru continued. We are not warriors. Most of our species have forgotten how to fight. We hide. We run. We hope they do not find us. Taiho looked at his captain. Do-yoon's face was calm, but his eyes were hard. How long before they reach Earth? The captain asked. Your years? Perhaps 200. Perhaps less. They move slowly but surely. They do not stop. 200 years. It seemed like a long time. But for a species thinking about the future, for children not yet born, it was nothing. Then we have time, Do-yoon said. Time to prepare. Time to help. Haru tilted its head. Help? You would help us? You welcomed us when you could have destroyed us. You gave us a chance when you didn't have to. That's not something we forget. The captain stood straighter. We may be soft. We may be weak. But we know how to fight. And we know how to teach others to fight. The Crystal Ambassador chimed. You would teach us war? Not war, Taiho said, speaking up despite the pain. We would teach you how to stand, how to refuse to fall, how to survive. The aliens looked at each other. Something was changing in that room. Something important. Perhaps, Haru said slowly, this is why you were sent to us. Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to remind us of something we had forgotten. What's that? Jisoo asked. Haru's skin glowed bright silver. Hope. The warning came 3 weeks after Taiho passed the trial. A Rava scout ship had entered gathering space. It was small, meant only to watch and report back to the main fleet. But its arrival changed everything. The station erupted into chaos. Ships began leaving, running away to hide in the dark corners of space. Representatives packed their things and fled. The hope that Jisoo's presentation had created seemed to vanish. Like morning mist. Captain Do-hyun watched it all from the observation deck of the horizon's edge. His crew stood with him. Not all of them were awake yet, but 40 had been brought out of cryosleep to help with repairs and planning. They're running, Yuna said quietly. Can you blame them? Jisoo replied. They've been running for 1,000 years. It's all they know. Do-hyun said nothing for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. I didn't come all this way to run, he said. We left Earth to find a new home, to build something, to prove that humanity could reach the stars. I won't start our new life by hiding in the dark. What are you suggesting, sir? Taiho asked. His wounds had healed, but scars covered his body now. Marks of his trial. I'm suggesting we do what humans do best. The captain's eyes were hard. We adapt. We fight. We refuse to give up. An hour later, Do-hyun stood before the remaining members of the gathering. Many had fled, but some had stayed. Haru was there, the crystal ambassador, the furry beings, others who had not lost all courage yet. You've been fighting alone, Do-hyun said. Each species defending itself, each one retreating when the pressure became too great. That's why you keep losing. What would you have us do? The crystal being asked. We are not warriors. Then become something else. Become partners. Become a team. Do-hyun pulled up images on the screens around them. Battle plans. Strategies. Humans are weak alone. But we learned long ago that together, we are strong. We share knowledge. We share resources. We share the burden. He pointed to Taiho. This man survived your trial, not because he was the strongest or the fastest. He survived because he refused to quit, and because he used his mind instead of just his body. Yuna stepped forward. I can teach your engineers how to repair ships while they're still in battle. On Earth, we learn to fix things while they're breaking. It's messy, but it works. Jisoo raised her hand. I've studied the reports on the Ravith. They're strong, but they're predictable. They use the same tactics every time. If we can study them, we can find their weaknesses. Han Mai-rei, the medical officer, spoke next. I can help set up field hospitals, not just for humans, but for all species. We can learn to heal each other. The aliens watched in silence. They were not used to this. Not used to a species offering the help instead of demanding payment or running away. Haru stepped forward. You would do this? Fight beside us? For us? Do-hyun nodded. You welcomed us. You gave us a chance. On Earth, we have a saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. You need friends right now. We're offering. The crystal being made a chiming sound. We have nothing to pay you with. No wealth. No technology better than your own. We don't want payment, Taiho said. We want a future. For us. For you. For everyone? Slowly, one by one, the remaining members of the gathering nodded. Something was changing. Fear was turning into something else. Not courage, exactly. Not yet. But the beginning of it. The Rava scout ship arrived at the station 2 days later. It was black and angular, like a piece of broken glass floating in space. It came close enough to scan the station, to see what was there, to report back to its masters. The gathering prepared to flee. Ships powered up their engines. Escape routes were calculated, but the Horizon's Edge did something different. It powered up its engines and flew straight toward the enemy. "What are they doing?" the furry ambassador howled. "They will be destroyed." Haru watched the human ship on the screens. "I do not know, but I have learned not to underestimate them." On board the Horizon's Edge, Taiho led a team of 10 humans. They wore suits patched together from whatever materials Yuna could find. They carried no guns, only tools and rope and courage. "The plan is simple," Taiho told his team through the radio. "We get on board. We disable their communications so they can't call for help. We take control of the ship." "Simple," one of his team members muttered. "Right." The Horizon's Edge got close enough for Taiho's team to jump. They used cables to cross the gap between ships, flying through space with nothing but thin suits protecting them from the void. The Raveth did not expect this. No species had ever tried to board one of their ships. Why would they? The Raveth were stronger, faster, more dangerous in every way. But the humans were not trying to be stronger. They were trying to be smarter. Taiho's team cut through an airlock and entered the enemy ship. Inside, they found Raveth soldiers. The creatures were terrifying up close, tall and covered in natural armor with claws that could cut through metal. The first Raveth that saw them laughed. It was a horrible sound. "Soft things," it said. "Pink and soft. You come to die?" Taiho held up his hands. "I come to give you a choice. Surrender, and you live. Fight, and you don't." The Raveth laughed again. Then it charged. Taiho dove under its claws. His team scattered, each one moving to a different part of the ship. They were not trying to fight the Raveth directly. They were trying to reach the engines, the weapons, the communications. The Raveth were stronger, but the humans were faster in tight spaces. They crawled through vents the Raveth could not fit into. They climbed walls the Raveth could not reach. They moved like water, flowing around every obstacle. One by one, systems went offline. The weapons stopped working. The engines died. The communication array was destroyed. The Raveth commander found Taiho in the main control room. The creature was massive, covered in scars from 100 battles. "What are you?" it demanded. Taiho was bleeding from a cut on his face. His suit was torn. He could barely stand. "We're humans," he said. "We're the ones who slept through space because we believed we'd wake up to something worth seeing." He looked the Raveth commander in the eyes. "And we're not going to let you ruin it." The commander stared at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been respect. "You are not like the others. The runners. The hiders." "No," Taiho agreed. "We're not." The Raveth scout ship was captured. It was the first time in the gathering's history that a Raveth vessel had been taken intact. Back at the station, the remaining members of the gathering watched in amazement. The furry beings howled with joy. The crystal beings chimed like bells. Even Haru, usually so calm, let out a musical cry of celebration. Captain Doyun stood before them all. "This is just the beginning," he said. "One ship, one small victory. But it proves something important. The Raveth can be stopped. They can be beaten. Not by running, not by hiding, but by standing together." The gathering voted that night. For the first time in centuries, they voted not to retreat. They voted to stand and fight. And they voted to let the humans teach them how. Weeks passed. Then months. The crew of the Horizon's Edge slowly woke, one by one, to find themselves not on a new colony world, but at the heart of a galactic alliance. They became teachers and leaders and friends to species they had never imagined. One evening, Taiho stood on the observation deck. Stars filled the window before him. So many stars. So many possibilities. Yuna joined him. She looked tired but happy. Quite a welcome party, she said. Taeho laughed. Not what I expected when I went to sleep. No, much bigger. She looked at the stars. Think we're ready for this? Being the hope of a whole galaxy? Taeho thought about his grandmother and her poems. About his crewmates in their pods, trusting the universe. About the aliens who would welcome them instead of destroying them. Ready or not, we're here now, he said. And humans don't quit. That's the one thing everyone's going to learn about us. Yuna smiled. The stubborn species. The hopeful species, Taeho corrected. We crossed the void because we believed something better was waiting. And you know what? We were right. They stood together, watching the stars. Behind them, the station buzzed with activity. Humans and aliens working side by side. Learning from each other. Building something new. Taeho had slept bare and woke to something impossible. But maybe that was the human way. Entering the unknown with nothing but hope, and making something beautiful out of whatever they found. The future was uncertain. The war with the Ravith was just beginning. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the Gathering was not afraid, because they had humans now, and humans did not know how to give up.